I welcome you all for the today's session to discuss about the security function. Actually, the security function it is something like focus on evaluating and improving security continuously. As an organization, you are trying to ensure that security is in place, but that efforts and continuous evaluation of the existing controls and improving the security whenever it is required, it is an ongoing process and it is a continuous process. That's why we call it as a security function. So to ensure and to continuously evaluate and constantly improving the security, definitely we require the strong security governance. Without having strong security governance, managing of the security at the organizational level is very typical, right? So to have a effective management, you require strong security governance. Means, as we discussed in the earlier sessions, some top level senior management's role and responsibilities and their exceptional knowledge has to be induced into the organizational for the effective security in the overall organization across different levels. And you know that every organization will have a security policy. The continuous risk assessment ensure that we are adhering to the security policy of the organization. And also, the continuous risk assessment will help us to take the effective decisions which are cost effective at the same time which are essential in the particular context of the business, right? So that's why it is totally an approach, it is a risk driven approach. Do the risk assessment and try to in line with the security policy, and to adhere to the security policies we need to take the rightful decision. That also comes as part of doing proper risk assessment. Once you do the risk assessment, you will identify what is the impact if a particular vulnerability is got exploited. So that detailed understanding which undercovers during the risk assessment will help to take the effective decisions. And to have this security functions along this thing, as we also understand, like to achieve security we will try to implement the controls. But remember, security should not be a term just like a term which is broad. It should have some measurable metrics. So let's say you take anything, let's say a person is there, based on his performance he will get his annual increments, because at the end of the day how he is contributing to the organization is very important. At the same way, security also, whatever the controls we are trying to get in place in the business has to be held accountable, because how they are held accountable, but knowing their effectiveness in the functionality and how they are benefiting, how they are reducing the overall impact of risk. Those are the important. So that's why these security metrics is just like another performance metrics where you have, let's say in terms of security, how that control is effectively performance, how it is able to detect the malicious activity. Let's say a firewall is there, how many attacks has successfully able to stop it, how many breaches a security control has reduced, how many persons could not able to see spam mails because of these controls. So these are different metrics. how many total number of threats count gradually reduce. So these are all various metrics which will consider for the evaluation of implemented security controls. So that's why you remember, implementing security is only can be considered as effective when we are able to assess the outcome and the success results. Those should be measurable. Then only you have the right choice. You can make what controls need to be managed in the organization can be achieved, right? Because if you don't do this assessment, you can't judge the best control. Without having best control, the overall business objective can be impacted. So assessment purpose is to ensure security completeness and effectiveness. That is the ultimate. Sometimes these controls are also, the metrics has to be submitted to the governing governance bodies, because some, we already discussed that some of the organizations or businesses has to adhere to the industry guidelines and best practices. To meet these best practices and guidelines, they need to enforce some security controls. Those security controls must align always with the industry guidelines and best practices. So as part of requirements of governance also, we need to implement certain controls. And we should always tend to have implementing security strategies, because you understand like that the security what is today may not be suitable for tomorrow. It is an ongoing process. There is no endpoint for the security. I implemented some of the security in today, it's done for the lifetime. That is not the case. You have to be continuously monitor, do the risk assessment and understand, and subsequently accordingly you have to develop and implement security strategies in the business. That is the important thing. And always remember that security should be aligned with the business strategy, because every organization will have different strategy, goals and mission. Because the security which is applicable to the retail industry may not be relevant to the IT sector. The security which is there in the commercial businesses may not be relevant to the military intelligence and military government organizations, right? It should be aligned with the organizational strategy, policy, goals and mission, right? So to have this proper security management, what we need to have, we need to have the policies created, and we need to ensure that they are implemented, and there is a governance body has to be monitored, they are continuously enforced, right? So creation, implementation and enforcement of these policies ensure the security is aligned with the business strategy, right? And business case justification is also very important. Means business case justification means to tell, like, let's say I need to implement a security control in the organization. Definitely implementation of a security control is lead to some expenses. It will impact our economic as part of the cost to the organization. For everything you need to have a clear justification. A documented justification has to be tell why we are going to this particular security requirement. It could be as part of the business needs, and you also able to justify the management stating that having this kind of control in place will reduce this kind of impact in the organization. So always we have to do a business case justification based on the business needs and the impact analysis. These are the two things you have to document. As a, if you are monitoring the security aspects of your organization, you need to go with the business case justification. What organization is going to get benefit if you are going to enforce these security mechanisms or controls or policies in the organization. Because every business will have resource constraints. So the ultimate idea of deciding or enforcing any control has to be done considering the factors like cost effectiveness of the control and maximizing the value to the budget. It has to do within the budget you need to do, because organization does not have unlimited resources. It should be cost effect. It should give some edge to the business. That is the ultimate thing. So now security management is very important, and we all understand, but how that security can be effectively implemented throughout the organization means you need to follow top down approach for the security management. Because the best strategy is going top down. Because see, as a business, let's say I am the employee of my organization, there is a boss. If boss says that I want to have this kind of security, let's say all all information stored in our organization should be encrypted. If this is the requirement, if my boss is able to give that thing, means senior management is going to tell as part of their policy, this is what we want to ensure the security and confidentiality of the end users data. Then subsequently the middle management and operational teams, everyone will follow. That's why we need the top down approach. The senior management is always try to initiate and define the security policy for the organization, because it's their business. They know what is the ultimate goal and vision and objective and strategically where they want to see their organization, because they define the security policy. Then subsequently the middle management, they will try to take this security policy as a broader vision of the organization, and they will try to deduce the standards, baselines, guidelines and processes. Each will have the different role. In the subsequent classes we'll see details about the standards, baseline, guidelines. But you understand here one point clear: the security policy is the ultimate document which will help to create standards, baselines, guidelines and procedures for the middle management. In fact, operational teams implement security configurations and controls based on these documentations. So we overall understand, like, for security management, three fundamental important things are there: senior management, middle management and the operational teams, who are the ultimate security practitioners who has to implement or enforce or to ensure that these security guidelines which are decided are properly in place in the ground. And then last but not least, end users must comply with the established security policies. This is the ultimate requirement to have effective security management. And remember, always top down approach is better. Of course, there are some strategies which will tell like down to top approach, but remember, like, if an employee is going to decide what the security has to be the organization, definitely it won't be best. Because see, let's say an organization, if some breach happen, who is liable? The senior management. Then security policies, or what is the vision of the security for the organization, what is the goal and everything, if it comes from the senior management, it will be effective. Let's say an employee creates a security policy for an organization, it never be a good policy. Because at the end of the day, the employer is the final liable person for the overall organizational security, the senior management. If the senior management is the ultimate responsible board of directors, and those are the people who are responsible for the overall security. And you know that security management is a very major important role in the organizational level, but it should be having proper leadership. because people, as we are again and again thinking like security management is a business responsibility, it is not something like IT task. So what is the, if it is a business responsibility, we should treat security team as a individual body. Because see, if you are working under some other middle management or something, you are not able to directly communicate with the senior management. So that's why they need some autonomy, and they have the ability to talk directly with the senior management. So the people who are going to communicate with the senior management, CISO, right? Generally, CISOs who leads infosec teams and reporting to the senior management. Who is the senior management? Chief Information Officer, CEO, Board of Directors. These are the ultimate senior management. So CISOs are sometimes, because they have to be, autonomy has to be there, means they should be kept individual, they should not be bring under admin department or some department, they should be totally a separate department who is have the ability to directly talk and interact with the senior management. In this way we can reduce the internal conflicts, and it will also helps to the overall organizational security. And sometimes people will call CSO, Chief Security Officer. It is a different sub role under CISO, focus on the physical security. And the Information Security Officer is another roles, and it is also comes under Chief Information Security Officer. Ultimately, we understand that security management is a top-down approach. It mainly depends on how senior management are dedicated to the overall organizational security. From there, middle management will support, and operational teams will execute, and end user has to comply as part of the policies, rules and regulations. And to have effective security management, security teams has to be have anonymity, which are continuously guided by the CISOs, right? The CISO has the direct contact with the senior management is the best strategy, right? That's it for the today's session. Subsequently, we'll see more details how this security is very important and how they're taken care in the different strategies. Thank you.